Welcome back to NTheRealestWay Podcast by Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast and this episode. I'm so thankful to be here right now, to speak about my experiences in life and talk about so many things in the realest way. I've gotten better at this podcasting, and I'm so happy that my entire life has been nothing but improvement and joy. In this podcast, I want to talk about the importance of celebrating yourself and how there were so many times when I was mad, disappointed, upset with myself. I always had this ideology that I had to be this perfect person. I had to be this person for everybody and myself, trying to make myself into something that I wasn't. Telling myself on a constant daily basis that I needed to be perfect. I needed to be without flaw. And I want you to know that that is something that is so unhealthy. It is so unhealthy. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to celebrate yourself. And that's what I want to talk about. To celebrate yourself for right now in the realest way. You may not be where you want to be right now, but you got somewhere that you weren't 2 days ago, 2 years ago. You weren't where you were like you are now. You're not. Celebrate yourself for where you are right now. Celebrate yourself for who you are right now. It's okay. And when I say those things, I don't mean it's okay to stay where you are right now. I'm saying it's okay to celebrate yourself right now. It's okay to give yourself thanks and acknowledgement for everything that you've accomplished. There were so many times, and I've had so many experiences with myself when I put myself down. When I was in high school and I was in band, I always strived to be perfect. I have to play perfect. Every time I would think about putting air and fixing my armature to play a note on my instrument, I thought of perfection. I thought of being something that was so unattainable to other people, but I had reached it. I wanted to become something full of ego, something full of being better than everybody around me. And I can't tell you how many times when, instead of celebrating myself for my accomplishments, I disrespected myself. I hurt myself. I told myself so many things that I'm not proud of. I'm not good enough. I'm not somebody who's worth living. Those kinds of things, because I had this expectation that other people had this expectation of me. And it was unhealthy because I was trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. This perfectionist, this perfect person who nobody could touch. And I didn't just do that in band. I did it in my GRGC when I was the battalion commander. I felt like I had to have this standard and I had to uphold it. And that is true to a certain extent. But the way I went about it was unhealthy. I would show up to things and expect people to meet me in the unhealthy way that I was treating myself. Work, discipline, be better than everybody, be the best at everything. You can't fail. You can't be weak. I told myself that, and I tried to make other people be that same way. And that was in regards to everything in that program. From drill competitions where I was in charge of them and we would march, expecting people to be perfect and for them not to make flaws. I did that in Raiders where it was about physical, about, being committed and not letting your mind fall. I did it with my entirety of school. I did it with my entire life. And don't get me wrong, I have accomplished a lot. Like I said, I was in band. I was the drum major. I was in JRTC. I was the battalion commander. I was the president of the student council in the Beta Club. I was in tennis. I was in the science club. I accomplished so many things, but I never celebrated, not truly. I never celebrated myself. I never gave myself acknowledgement for everything I had accomplished. It was always, okay, so what's next? Oh, this is the next challenge. Okay, let's get this going. Let's do that. Let's do this. I never celebrated myself. And I'm here to tell you that it's important. It's important to celebrate yourself for where you are right now. It is important because you lose everything that you gained by disrespecting yourself, but not allowing yourself to be proud. If you can't be proud of yourself, if you can't support yourself, if you can't love yourself, who's going to do it for you? Truly. There is so many times where you have built upon by relationship. And those relationships sometimes end badly, or they start badly because we allow ourselves to be disrespected. We allow ourselves to be in positions where our boundaries and how we treat ourselves, we allow others to treat us the same way. It all wraps around. Every podcast episode, it wraps around. From meeting people where they are, to leaving people where they are, to if you don't stop, God will, to you can go without me. All these podcast episodes, they mean something. And this one does too. To celebrate yourself. To say, hey, this is where I am right now. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. It's okay to go about it in a healthy way to where you're improving and you're growing. But don't let it become a point where you lose yourself. Don't let it become to that point. I've lost so many people. I've lost myself because of it. It's not worth it to try to be this perfect person. Because in all reality, you will never be the perfect person. And you will never be the best at anything that you strive to do. You will never be the best. You can be better. You can do the best that you can do at all times by growing and getting better. But you will never be the best at what you do. Because there's always somebody that's doing that. And I mean in regards to, for instance, me as a musician. I will never be the best euphonium. I may be one of the best, but I will never be the best. That is ego speaking. That is nothing but ego. And when you let your ego control you instead of having it in a healthy way, you lose and you don't celebrate yourself. You don't. Because you spend so much time putting yourself down. So much time. Celebrate yourself. It's okay to celebrate yourself. It's okay. And I learned that from now on, what I need to do is strive to be better in a healthy way. In a healthy way. And I'm applying it to my life right now. In these podcasts, this podcast, I told myself that, hey, I want to post at least 2 times in a week. It's to a point where I give myself a standard to uphold because you need that. But also to a point where I don't have room to be and to do other things. It's a freedom. It's freeing. So when I make these podcasts, I may make 5 podcasts in this week, but I want it to be of my doing. I want it to come from God. And when I was just sitting in my bed, laying down, thinking, and just experiencing life in all of its beauty and greatness, I learned that if it comes to you, if God wants you to speak about it, then that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. God told me to talk about this. God said, hey, you experienced times when you didn't celebrate yourself. Now you can talk about it. Now you can speak from your heart. Speak about how God did this. God healed me. Celebrate yourself. You need to. You have to. Because at the end of the day, that's who will do it. Of course, your family, you may have supportive family. You may have supportive friends. But don't let those people who support you be the very thing that could make you fall. What happens if those people don't show up? What happens if they don't support you? What happens if they don't celebrate you? Do you stop everything that you're doing? Do you just give up? No. You celebrate yourself in a healthy way to where you're able to do it yourself. And everybody else that's coming into your life is just adding on. Just adding on. I say it all the time. I don't want anybody to take away from what I have now. The happiness, the peace I have. If anything, you need to be adding to it. To be adding to it. I don't want anybody in my life that is going to take away from everything I've accomplished, everything I've celebrated about myself, the good and the bad. I celebrate the good and the bad. I don't do too good. Okay. I'm happy. I welcome that because you don't get better by just doing good. You get better by failing and getting better. That's what you do. And I'm so happy God has given me the voice, the heart to talk about this topic because it is important to celebrate yourself, especially in my job category as a person in the Army. There's a lot of people who lose their self to this in an unhealthy way. They commit too much to where they don't have time for their self, or they just lose their self in a way to where everything becomes the Army. They don't have time for their mental health. They don't have time for the things that they care about. Celebrate yourself. Be happy for everything that you've accomplished. I celebrate it all. I celebrate my friends, my family. I celebrate God. It all means so much. I'm so thankful, God. I'm so thankful. You have given me something that I didn't know I needed. I didn't know I needed this. I want to end this podcast off a little shorter than I would usually do, but this podcast has filled my heart with so much love. And like I say at the end of every podcast episode, I give thanks to the utmost of the highest power, God. And I'm thankful for my friends and family. And I'm thankful for everybody who's listening to this podcast and this episode. Thank you so much. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. You make all this worth it. This is NTheRealestWay Podcast. Out.